Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today, a brand new rock star. He's the CEO of the world's first input-free automated marketing platform for video. Super interested to dive into this. You use cutting-edge marketing tools. The Waymark platform enables businesses of all sizes to optimize their video messaging. Nathan Labenz, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Kirby. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. So I'm a big believer in video. Obviously, we're doing some video right now. And so, I am that big fan, but obviously you are too. You've created a company around it. So for those who are trying to decide if they're going to dip their toe into video marketing, why is video such a powerful marketing tool?
Well, I think above all, it's where the audience is, and it's where people are spending all their time. And it's just by the very nature of how people spend their time, it's the biggest opportunity to connect with new people who maybe don't know a lot about you. The statistics on this always kind of amaze me, and I hope they don't quite apply to me, although I suspect they may apply more than I would like to admit. But, people, depending on which stats you follow, are watching 6, 7, 8 hours of television or video in some form. Television is still the majority of that, but obviously we've got a lot more different channels now where people can engage with and watch video content. But, you think about that, that's up to half of waking life for a lot of people. So as a business, if you want to interact with an audience, you really can't afford to ignore the place where they spend, a third or half of their waking life. And you really also can't afford to ignore the richness of the communication and the connection that video can make. I mean, it's no accident that people are gravitating toward video, at the perhaps expensive books or things that we might, we might be a little bit nostalgic for. But the content is just so compelling, and people love it. And so it's really as simple as that. It's the place to be if you want to connect with an audience.
Yeah. And I think, I always say that people still buy from people and brands that they like, know, and trust. And I think video is the fastest way to let them like, know, and trust you, right? I mean, like they get to really know you because they see you and hear from you and all that sort of thing. And so I agree. I think that it is just such a powerful tool, and it's still, as much video as there is, I still think it's underused, right? At least that's my take on it. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, when you said like, know, and trust, that, and then kind of also just about echoed one of our phrases, which is not unique to us, but sight, sound, and motion. If you want to establish that richness of connection that has the potential to begin to create, that sense of knowing, liking, and trusting, then you got to engage as many senses as possible. So again, it's just kind of a fundamental thing, right? You could talk to people just through the ears, and that can work. You can, just have something that's visual. You could just have something that's text. But you bring all those together, and it's just far more powerful than any one in isolation.
I love it. I love it. So what are some mistakes you see? I mean, obviously there are folks using video, but what are some mistakes you see brands making when they create video marketing?
Well, we work with a wide variety of businesses, first of all. So I should note that our most common customer is a small business, or small or medium-sized business. We also work with businesses that serve those businesses. So we work with like cable companies, which have in turn, a big customer base of local and small and medium-sized businesses that they work with. So, I think keeping in mind that that's kind of the core audience for us, I think the primary mistakes I see are probably twofold. One is just not doing anything, not having any, video available at all. And this sometimes even extends to, having almost no online profile still. That's still fairly common.
Right.
So, simple things like having a video on your Google My Business profile so that people, when they search for you and begin to discover you, have something there that they can opt in to watch if they choose. Just failing to kind of fill those obvious opportunities, which are really so often an initial touch point for a business. That's probably the number one, most correctable mistake that I see. Sense. I think on the other side too, something that I often will coach folks on, because they know that I'm into video, and so they sort of go, well, I want to be, I want to be an influencer. I want to blow up on TikTok, or whatever. And I think the other big mistake that I see people making is kind of confusing themselves for prolific content creators, which most people are not. Obviously, we, all that content that we watch, right? That's 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, whatever. That's largely coming from prolific content creators. They may be
Right.
professional, they may be amateur, but they're people that just love to create content, and they create a ton of content. Folks on TikTok post daily or multiple times a day in many cases. Right. And so a lot of times small business owners or marketers at kind of medium-sized businesses see that and they think, boy, it would be awesome if I could blow up like that. But what they don't really realize is it's a full-time job just to make all that content.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of times I find myself kind of trying to coach people on, well, what do you really want to be? Like, do you want to be a full-time content creator? If so, you better get at it. But if you're coming to me and asking, you're probably not a full-time content creator. It's probably something where you more need to think about what are the, core touch points that I can cover to make sure I'm communicating effectively at the most important moments that I have. And let me check those boxes first. Then maybe we can make some, fun content or whatever. But 99 out of 100 people, when they set out to blow up on TikTok, the biggest stumbling point is they just don't know what content to make. They don't end up making very much. They don't post that much. So nothing really happens.
Right.
So it's kind of the two extremes, right? It's the doing nothing, getting people off of zero. That's probably the most important thing. But then the other thing is kind of helping people understand themselves a little bit better.
Right.
That, if you're not already prolifically creating content, that may not be what you ought to be doing. Maybe you should stay focused on your business and doing a great job for customers and all that good stuff. And that's, it's a full-time job, right? Of course. So you can, just do a little bit of content, and that can still get you a lot of value without, turning yourself into a full-time content creator.
Yeah, it's so funny. Sometimes some of these things come back to those simple things that we've heard about for years, and you begin with the end in mind. What are you trying to accomplish? And by answering that question, it might help you decide how much content you really need to create, right? Yeah.
Ultimately, 70% of the videos that we see created on the Waymark platform are basically introducing a business.
Yeah.
It goes back to the most fundamental form of marketing, the awareness theory of advertising, right? People will not deal with a business that they've never heard of, simply put. So, a lot of businesses these days emphasize search, and rightly so. If you are the kind of business that gets searched for, then search is great. The plumber is kind of the canonical example of that, right? I got a leak, or I got a drain plug. I go search now. Like, that is perfect, for that type of business that's driven by that kind of episodic need. But so many businesses, and especially today as we become, more and more affluent, and it's more about discovery and individualized experiences and, novel things, so many businesses don't have any awareness to drive search, right? So if I have not only have I never heard of you, but I maybe have never even thought of what you do and how it could be cool for me. So I'm never going to go search that out. You have to kind of come to me. And that's where, these 70% of businesses are just introducing themselves, just getting in front of people for the first time and making that initial connection, so people have the awareness that this is even something that's out there for them.
That's cool. So in my mind, and again, I've talked to people about videos too, and you actually have created a tool to hopefully make it easier for them. But it's like the pushback I always get from entrepreneurs and salespeople and small business. I was like, I don't have time. Like, I know video is great, but I don't have time to create it. So I'm curious, do you think that's a real thing? That's a real challenge, or is it just an excuse that people are using?
No, I mean, absolutely. It's extremely time consuming.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main value propositions for our product at Waymark, which, folks can check out, and you can go make videos there without signing up, no credit card or anything required to go ahead and play with the product. One of the main things we try to do is take the time out of the equation. And we've worked, really hard for years to find all the different ways that we can do that. It's actually becoming, as we sit here in kind of mid 2022, it's becoming even more exciting because the whole field of artificial intelligence is kind of hitting an inflection point where it is moving from, and people are probably starting to become aware of this with things like DALL-E, that can create images out of just text. There's a lot of text generation AI technologies that are starting to mature as well. These things, even a year ago, were not good enough to help our users. But today they are absolutely good enough to help our users. And we're, rolling out more and more AI enhancements on kind of a monthly basis. But our goal is to basically allow you to come to our site, tell us who you are. The first step is typically searching for your business. Most businesses have at least some online profile. Our product does work better if you have at least moderately robust online profile. So that is, your Facebook page, your Google My Business, your website, all the content that you've got there. Once you tell us who you are, we can go out and find all that content. So we will import, and this takes, 10, 15 seconds. We'll import all the photos we can find. That could be hundreds of photos in many cases. We'll import all the text content that we can find. We use AI technology to parse that and help understand it. And then we give you the opportunity to tell us what you want. So this is really a revolution in computing that goes far beyond video. But in our case, you get to just type in to a text box what you want the video to be. What do you want to say? And that could be, introduce us. That's, still 70%. It could be, hey, we're hiring for a particular role, or we're hiring in general. It could be, we've got a sale coming up this weekend, but you can say whatever it is that you really want to communicate. You can typically get that across in one sentence. Like, this is very easy to do. The AI then can understand that, can convert it into a script. And so within, maybe 20 total seconds from the time you do that search and you type what you want to say, you are then able to watch an AI created video that has totally original script based on our understanding of your business from parsing that online profile. It's going to use your assets as well. All the images that you have, a lot of the videos that we have designed are really geared to take advantage of image assets, because that's what small and medium sized businesses typically have. They're not sitting on a lot of footage of their business.
Right.
If they do have that, that's great. They can upload that too, and we can use that also. But in the name of speed, it's going out there and understanding the business, understanding all the assets that business has already published, understanding what they want to do right now, and then wrapping that all together into something we like to call it a watch first experience. It's not technically watch first, because you did have to search and you did have to tell us what you want, but you're not asked to become an editor. You are not asked to become a copywriter. You are not asked to, sit back and evaluate storyboards and debate, the merits of this or that. You get to watch a fully formed video prepared for you. And then you can start that process of, hey, maybe there's a few things I want to refine. If you didn't like the first one that we made, we have an opportunity there to just do it again. And you can give us some different instructions, or correct what happened before. So we're in the, I would still say, somewhat early phases of this, but it's already pretty awesome. It's getting far more awesome all the time. And I think, in the not too distant future, this is going to be the way that all sorts of creative technology will work. You're not going to have to sit in Photoshop, and probably most of our listeners aren't big Photoshop folks, but you're not going to have to go down to that pixel by pixel level. The sort of CSI enhanced type technology is starting to come online. You're not going to have to sit there and think, how am I going to write every bit of copy? You'll have really good quality suggested copy generated for you to get your thinking started, help take you down that path. So I think it's going to be a really exciting next few years in technology in general, creative technology specifically. And our big goal is to take that time factor out so that people can go, ideally in just a couple minutes from nothing to something, and not just something, but something hopefully that they would feel represents them well, that they would want to use to introduce their business. And, in the context of cable TV advertising or any form of advertising, that they would actually feel confident putting money behind. If we can check all those boxes, then we'll really be delivering for people. And I think that's what gets me excited every day. Yeah. I can really see how we're beginning to do that. And with, a little bit more work over the coming months, it will be a really impressive experience.
That's incredible. That's super cool. And as a guy who's done video for many, many, many years, it's fascinating because, again, that was the thing. It just took a lot of time. And so the idea that a tool like this exists is really pretty cool. So I guess final question for you, man. As you're obviously the idea behind Waymark is that the AI is doing some of that for you, but when you look at good videos, I mean, what are some tips to create a great video? What are things that people need to include?
Well, I think just think about this in terms of the most common mistakes that we see people making, which we're, certainly working to get the AI to, help them avoid. Too much content is probably the biggest number one thing that we see. We talked about the sound, the visual and the text. And most of our content is designed so that it works in a silent environment. That's really important for social media.
Right.
It also works with sound on. We're doing some really exciting stuff also with AI generated voiceover. So that, we'll kind of bring the whole thing together. But I think the number one thing that we see that really causes problems on the viewer's end is just too much stuff stuffed into not enough time. Too much text on the screen, you can't read it, So if you can't read it, then you're immediately kind of lost.
Right.
You gotta help people through the full narrative.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to, make sure that each point is kind of concise, that it can land. So, definitely before publishing anything, I would recommend show it to somebody who hasn't seen it at all, and just do like a simple comprehension test. You don't necessarily need their feedback on, do they like your style or whatever like that? People can get bogged down there, but absolutely need to make sure that they can absorb it. If it goes too fast and they're just kind of like, whoa, I didn't catch all that, then you got some editing, some pruning to do in order to make sure that the final piece is really effective.
I love that. That's really good. I think that, and that's been again, same thing for years. That's been a challenge, is people were trying to fit 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag. And then it's like, it's impossible to follow. So I think that's great advice. So real quickly, where can folks learn more about Waymark?
Yeah, well, we're online at waymark.com. And, the simplest thing to do, especially if you are a small business owner or a marketer at a medium-sized business, or, a business that serves those kinds of businesses, you can just go to the site. We've got a big template library. We've got a great creative team that really works on all the visuals, the motion graphics, that kind of creates the sense of visual narrative and pacing and all that stuff. So all that stuff is really high end. And then it's a matter of making it yours. You can go into that template library, find something that kind of suits you, and then you go through that AI powered process that I described. And in, just a few minutes, you should be looking at something that is original, meaningfully yours, and hopefully effective in communicating what you need to communicate. So I look forward to seeing what people create. And we have live chat on the site as well. If there's ever any feedback or you run into, a problem, we're very responsive and very eager to hear the feedback of our users.
That's super cool, man. You've kind of blown my mind today. This is I'm super excited to check it out myself, and this has been fun, Nathan. So let's do it again sometime, okay?
All right, I appreciate it, Kirby. Thanks very much.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.